Hello everybody and welcome to the Meeting House. It's another beautiful day here and we're here to bring you news from the world of religion, conversation with all of these things, a little music and a good time. I'm Dr. Dwight A. Moody, your host and your friend. Thank you for stopping by the Meeting House today, and thank you to my colleague Caleb Owolabi. Welcome back.
Thank you, Dwight. Thank you for having me again in the beautiful Meeting House.
Thank you very much.
It's good to be here.
Adding things to our set here.
I see.
What is new this week?
Well, it's a little more festive. I see this wreath here in the top corner over there, and so it looks like the holiday spirit is among the Meeting House.
That's right. It is. We hung the wreath, the Christmas wreath, and we hope to bring a little holiday cheer from the Meeting House. One of our guests today is Tom Krattenmaker, a journalist, author, administrator at Yale Divinity School, a longtime friend of mine. He's a keen observer of religion and American life from his position as a humanist, brings a very different take on some things. So welcome to the Meeting House, Tom.
Hi, Dwight. Hi, Caleb. How are you two doing? I just have to say, the set looks great.
Great. Thank you very much. We tweak it every week to get it like we want it. I've still got more ideas about what to do. But we've got to do the news right now, don't we? Let's start in Colorado Springs with Jenna Ellis, a lawyer, a talk show host, and a Christian spokesperson. So when she said this on her show last week, people took notice, and I quote, "The 5 people who were killed in the Q nightclub are now reaping the consequences of having eternal damnation," end quote. She explained that there was no evidence the 5 victims of the LGBTQ violence were Christians. Therefore, the eternal destiny of their souls, rather than the gruesome attack on their bodies, should be the focus of our concern and conversation. That was her explanation. What do you think about that, Tom?
Dwight,
You're shaking your head.
That sentiment is so far from the values of Jesus. I just have to ask, where's the compassion? Where's the Christian love in that posture? This Jenna Ellis seems to be saying basically that the murder victims, had it coming? And she seems to be saying that, hey, if people aren't Christian, and by the way, we don't know that's the case here.
We don't know.
Because a lot of LGBTQ people are Christian.
Right.
But hey, if people aren't Christian, people in the church don't need to concern themselves with their well-being and need not have any sadness or sympathy if they're the victims of gruesome violence.
Yes.
That's tough.
The worst part of it.
Thanks to the podcast that we produce here at YDS, I was recently reminded of the role that healing and caring for people played in the early growth of the church. But if this Jenna Ellis attitude had prevailed in those early decades, you can be sure that the faith would not have grown and influenced the world the way it has.
No question about it. I was stunned to read this. Of course, the whole episode out there in Colorado Springs was an awful thing to happen. And the attack, yet again, on the LGBTQ community, and then to have this kind of statement trying to smother the compassion that we have and the concern that we have. It's a bad thing.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't encourage other acts of violence.
Well, here's another one in the news today. The violent murders of 4 students in the university town of Idaho have also drawn attention to a local church. It is known as Christ Church, and with its offshoot congregation numbers about 2,000 people, or 10% of the local population. Their pastor is a man named Douglas Wilson. The church gained public notoriety by resisting public health protocols during the COVID pandemic. Women who have left that church cite its culture that normalizes sexual abuse and the harassing of survivors. The pastor teaches the headship of the husband over finances, television, house chores, and sexuality. In more than one ways, Tom, the small town in Idaho is fighting for its soul, don't you think?
I do. Dwight, this case is just so enigmatic.
Yes.
It's been several weeks now, and do you realize that the police have gotten nowhere
Nowhere.
with their investigation? Based on what I'm reading and seeing, they have no idea what a motive might have been. They don't have any suspects. So I've been following the case a little bit, but I didn't know about this church until I saw your lineup of stories for the meeting house today. Wow, 10% of the population of that town are members of this church. That's a lot.
You wonder what kind of Christian witness they have out there, Caleb.
Yeah, you can't really say 10%. I mean, how much influence, does a church have in a community where 10% of its members go to a certain church?
So that community out there, Moscow, Idaho, is dealing with all sorts of challenges to its soul.
This church is apparently buying up businesses and properties
Yes.
throughout the city and the county, and they're trying to make it a Christian town.
Yes.
Whatever that means in this context.
Whatever that means, that there are places all over the country, Kansas, where the Catholics are doing that, and Florida, where the Catholics are doing it, and several places where the evangelicals are doing it, trying to withdraw from the broader culture and form enclaves in many ways like the Mennonites and the Amish have been doing for a long time.
Well, with this attitude about sex and the relationship between husbands and wives, they're going to have a hard time attracting women. Some of the stuff I read from this pastor is just like excruciatingly bad.
It is very bad. They're having trouble keeping the women, evidently. Now, two stories from the West Coast, from the Los Angeles area. There is $62 million at stake, so contends a lawsuit filed in Anaheim, which is a suburb of Los Angeles. Plaintiffs are seeking to stop pastors Alan and Catherine Scott from taking the flagship Vineyard Church in Anaheim out of the Vineyard Communion. Vineyard is a global network of charismatic congregations that grew out of the signs and wonders teaching of John Wimber. The leading congregation was simply called Vineyard Anaheim, but the Scotts, as soon as they became pastors 5 years ago, changed the name to Dwelling Place. Not everybody's pleased, and some of the estimated 300 members and former board members have gone to court to stop the effort to take the church into the non-denominational world. Tom, courts don't like to get involved in these things, do they?
I can't believe it's come to this. I just want to say something about denominations, and I know that you've been talking about them lately, Dwight. So some people, not me, but some people, think that denominations are boring or bureaucratic or whatever. But I have to say, they do provide an accountability structure. They provide guardrails. And so when a church wants to go non-denominational, I wonder why. And I think other people do as well. And I wonder what kind of accountability structure they're setting up on their own. Or is it just going to be whatever the pastor says on a given day? Do we know why Alan Scott wanted to take the church out of the Vineyard Network? The article that I read said that he's never explained it.
This is a very good point. It doesn't seem to have involved the congregation in the decision. That's the first thing.
All right.
But this couple, they're both from Ireland. They pastored a vineyard church there, but then they disconnected from the vineyard, wrote a long letter criticizing the vineyard. Now, I don't know whether you're familiar with the Vineyard Network. I have friends who are both pastors and lay people in the Vineyard Network. I don't know whether there are any vineyard churches here around in South Carolina or whether there are any up there in New Haven, Connecticut. But it's part of the Pentecostal charismatic movement. And yes, I do think this couple, they want to have complete control over this church. At least that seems to be what the situation is.
Yeah, well, I could see why some people would be upset and why they would take it to a court of law.
Yes, we'll see what the judges, if the judges want to get involved. Elsewhere in Los Angeles, 3 institutions of higher learning in Southern California have a vision for a unified approach to ministerial formation for Hispanics. And the Lilly Endowment of Indianapolis has invested $5 million to make it happen. Azusa Pacific University, Life Pacific University, and Latin American Bible Institute are part of the larger nationwide Pathways for Tomorrow initiative that has received money from the Lilly Endowment given to 355 colleges. These 3 schools will develop a shared Spanish language curriculum that supports Latino students going into the ministry. Nearly half of the residents in Los Angeles County are Hispanic or Latina. Well, here's something positive. People working together, being funded by an endowment that requires a great deal of accountability and oversight. Have you ever worked with the Lilly Endowment?
Well, here at Yale Divinity School, we
Yes.
have been fortunate
Yes.
to receive their support for several key initiatives, past and present. They're
Right.
great.
They are great, but they do require a lot of oversight, don't they?
Yeah, and thankfully, I'm not the one who had to write the grant proposal. That's
Well, over the
it's a
years,
rather exacting process, I'm told.
it is. I've done it with the Lilly Endowment 5 or 6 times.
Oh, you have?
Oh,
Okay.
yes. It submitted annual reports. I know all about the protocols there. And I like this story. I like what's happening because the Hispanic percentage of the Christian community in our country is expanding rapidly. Protestant, Pentecostal,
This program
and
is
Catholic.
good.
Yeah.
The program is good. It seems like a sensible response to a growing need, and it seems like a sign of the times and a sign of things to come. So I think you said that half the population of LA County are Hispanic or Latino.
Who knew that?
So, that's a lot, but
That's
that's
a
the way
lot.
things are going. That's
That's
the way things are going. Almost 20% of the U.S. population are Hispanic or Latino. And, the vast majority of those folks are Christian.
They are.
Traditionally, Hispanics in this country have been Catholic, but that's changing. More and more are becoming Protestant.
This is exactly true. I read recently where Mexico, along with the United States, are 2 of the most Christianized countries in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, let's go to Nashville, Tennessee. 2 local musical groups are being recognized for excellence and influence. First, the Tennessee State University Marching Band released a record of urban gospel music and got nominated for a Grammy. Congratulations to them. And then the Fisk Jubilee Singers are the featured performers at a Polyphony conference. Polyphony is a community of church musicians who love choral and instrumental music and the hymns of the church. The original Fisk Jubilee Singers introduced, quote, slave songs to the world in 1871 and were instrumental in preserving the American musical tradition known today as the Negro spiritual. There they are. Tom, have you ever heard the Fisk Singers?
I haven't, but I've heard of them. And you know what, Dwight? I have to thank you for bringing some happy news because I was feeling a bit low after those first 3 stories that we talked about.
I know.
And so I don't have a heck of a lot to say other than hats off to the Tennessee State Marching Band. Hats off to the Fisk Jubilee Singers. Would love to hear them. And I love that word, polyphony. Thank you for teaching that to me today.
I had to call a musical friend to ask how to pronounce that word. It's a conference that I personally would like to go to. I wish I could take the Meeting House to cover a conference like that in Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, such an important topic. There's nothing like music to bring a worship service to life, to move people. It's just a unique and powerful form of communication.
Now, I know Yale Divinity School has a top-rated church music department and degree. Am I not right about this?
The Institute of Sacred Music. Thank you for teeing that up.
Yes. For a long time. Have you ever heard the Fisk Jubilee Singers?
I have, but not live. So that's something I need to put on my bucket list.
You know, the the Fisk Jubilee Singers inspired my friend Everett McCorvey, who's been in the Meeting House many times, to launch the American Spiritual Ensemble. Have they ever been to Yale Divinity School?
It's not ringing a bell, maybe before I started working here, but are you making that recommendation?
Yes, absolutely. These are all opera-trained singers. Everett told me last year that 28 of the cast of Broadway Showboat production last year were his singers from the American Spiritual Ensemble.
Wow, that's impressive.
I mean, they're top rate. Some of them perhaps graduates of Harvard, and I mean of Yale. But anyway, if you can bring them to Yale, that would be a good thing. They've been in
All
the
right,
Meeting
sounds
House
like a good
several times.
recommendation. Thank you very much.
That's all the news. Thank you, Tom, for joining us today for the news. We'll have to come back in the new year and do this again.
Well, you're very welcome. Best
Merry
to both
Christmas.
of you.
Merry
Tom.
Christmas to you.
Yes.
Merry Christmas.
I want to take a break and listen to the Fisk Jubilee Singers.
Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on, hold on.
Laura, Laura, let me come in. The doors are fastened and the windows pane.
Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on, hold on.
These songs, they have a purpose behind them. And you have to feel the music. You have to feel it.
Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on, hold on.
I say the song in my head, I allow it to transfer through my body, and I allow the song to feel me, and then I feel it, and then I present it to the audience.
Many of the Jubilee singers have been in musical training since they were 3 and 4 years old. At Fisk University, there's as much competition to become a Jubilee singer as there is to make the basketball team at the University of Tennessee or the football team at Alabama.
Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on, hold on.
When you consider their accomplishments worldwide, the Fisk Jubilee Singers have earned the right to boast. But humility is as much a part of their heritage as the beautiful and moving music.
It's such a great legacy that to be a part of it is humbling. You cannot have a sense of arrogance. You can't have a sense of being better than anybody because you know that so many years people have been working to create and working to preserve and working to continue this legacy. And you're just a spot in a whole circle of life.
I will go, I shall go to see what the end will be.
As they come to understand their own history, the young singers quickly learn to honor and respect the ones who sang before them.
I will go, I will go, I shall go, I shall.
You were listening to the Fisk Jubilee Singers, Nashville, Tennessee, Fisk University. I've been on that campus many times while I was launching and leading the Academy of Preachers. It's a wonderful place. I'm Dwight Moody in the Meeting House. With me, Caleb Owolabi. You were here last week, but you've been to Seattle and back since we were together.
Yes, I was there for the holidays. It was really a great time. I don't know if you've been before, but beautiful city.
It's a beautiful city. I have been.
Despite what they say about the rain, though.
There is a lot of rain, but it's a beautiful part of the country.
It's beautiful, and I was there for a Raiders and the Seattle Seahawks game as well, and that was so interesting because they didn't win, but they held their heads high, and there were so many Raiders fans that came into Seattle to see this game. It was amazing. Yeah, I've never been to an NFL game that intense.
Well, I'm going to forgive you for that. The Meeting House really is a Pittsburgh Steelers fan base here.
Well, I know that's your team. That's okay.
That's my team.
Got it.
Well, Caleb, help me welcome our guest, the Reverend Jonathan Favors Grimes of Atlanta, Georgia.
All right.
Jonathan, welcome to the Meeting House today.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Jonathan was one of the planners and managers of a conference at Princeton Seminary that carried the theme of heaven and earth, but part of its real significance was the launching of one of the most important and influential parachurch organizations of the 20th century, the World Student Christian Federation, first launched in 1895 by John R. Mott, a very famous man. Jonathan, tell us about your experience at this conference. Tell us what was going on.
Sure. So this past September, we had our first inaugural student conference for all students who go to universities and those who are part of campus ministries. This was our first conference after many, many years of being inactive. And so I happen to be one of those persons who serves on the leadership team that helped plan this conference for this year. And as you said earlier, our theme was a new heaven and a new earth, a new heaven and a new earth. And the whole conference was centered on that theme, a new heaven and new earth. Some of our guests that spoke during the conference were the Reverend Dr. William Barber, the Reverend Dr. Will Gaffney, and we had so many others, Reverend Erica Williamson, and so many others from other Christian parts of the faith as well. And we had over 200 students and campus ministers that gathered at Princeton University, where we gathered for about 4 days, from September 15th through the 18th, gathering together to focus on the theme of reckoning, reimagining, and healing, and trying while we were there to make a new heaven and a new earth. And that's what we did while we were there.
Was this a gathering of just American students, or did it involve people from other countries?
There were a few students, international students who are studying here in America as exchange students. We had one from Germany, and we had a few others. One of our movement members in Canada, who's the organizer for WSCF Canada region, came down to America as well. So we had various students from all over the world, and we had video footage from our other regions, from Africa, from India, and all over where our regions are.
But tell me how you got involved. How were you chosen, or who did you know? Who did you respond to get pulled into this event?
Yes, so my involvement with WSCF began in the year of 2016, 2017. During that time, it wasn't as active as it is now. I think they were trying to spark up that fire again, and it never really kind of took off. There were some things going on, but they didn't have as much of the funding needed. And so Aaron, who is our current national organizer, was hired part-time right before the pandemic to take on the reign of sparking this fire again. And then under Aaron's vision of prayer gatherings and having panel sessions of various topics that really were geared toward what is happening in today's world, I began to get more involved. I started attending our global prayer gathering, which we have every 4th Monday, which we just had this past Monday, and students from all over the world. So you see many people from Australia, India, Africa gather together at 10 o'clock in the United States, but it's different time zones for those. And we gather for a time of prayer. And I got involved in that. And then Aaron put out for a team. And I saw the application. I aspired to, try it out just to see where I could put my works my gifts to work. And just so happened, I was selected to serve on the team. And what was supposed to be a year now is becoming, this is my first year of us serving as a team. But after such a tremendous work that we've done with this conference, the board for our region decided to extend our work for the next couple of years. So I'll be working on this in this part of area of leadership with Aaron and those on our team for the next couple of years going forward.
The World Student Christian Federation, that's the title of the organization, was formed in 1895, led by a man named John R. Mott, a name that will be very familiar to people who have studied and learned about the ecumenical movement, because the World Student Christian Federation was a part of the ecumenical movement that took root at the end of the 19th century, the early part of the 20th century, gave rise to the National Council of Churches, the World Council of Churches, now very prominent centers of Christian work and cooperation around the world. So the students came to this event and prepared by prayer. Tell us about the theme, the new heavens and the new earth, and what was the intent of the theme, and what were they trying to do with these students from all over the country?
Sure. So the theme was sparked by a conversation that we had from one of our former panelists who led us, which this coming Friday, tomorrow, we're actually going to revisit that whole entire theme and talk about that in our Bible study, which we are doing a Bible study in collaboration with Kenya. So anyone who's watching or listening is more than welcome to join us tomorrow at 1 o'clock as we talk about a new heaven and new earth.
Did you say that you're joining a Bible study in Kenya? Is that what you said?
Yeah, tomorrow in collaboration with Kenya.
That's
He really
you
did
heard
say
it. Yeah, he said
I was
that.
wondering,
Right.
did he say that? He said that, yes.
Okay, all right. That's great.
Fantastic.
And so you're going to evaluate that. What do you think was the primary takeaway from this conference that you attended?
Well, the primary takeaway was reimagining and doing the necessary work to rebuild what God had already originally planned way back in Genesis 1, when God created the heavens plural, and the earth. And as students, we recognize now as younger people that with all the trauma that has come from the many years of being silenced and what has taken place over the pandemic from the Trump era till now, we notice that there is a need for healing, a need for our land to be healed with global climate change happening, with brutality against our BIPOC, all people of color and LGBT siblings. We notice we, the next generation, must do the work. We have to do the work to bring forth a new heaven and new earth, because that was not in God's original plan. God wanted everybody to be included and everyone to feel amongst and within the body. And so at the conference, we actually saw that. We did the work of looking inward into ourselves and acknowledging our faults. And first, we did it by going to a high prestigious institution, Princeton University, which is known for their brutal history of how they have treated people of color. Mm-hmm. And so there, having the conference at Princeton, we began to do the reckoning, acknowledging first, this is our past, and this is where we have made mistakes. And we also reclaimed what was ours. We reclaimed the land of our indigenous people. Me being a part of the indigenous family, my family is indigenous, and this being, the past month being Indigenous Peoples Month, it was humbling to just reclaim what was mine, what was taken away.
We're in a studio outside of Greenville, South Carolina. All of the area where we are was formerly the home ground of the Cherokee Indian Nation. And of course, they were forcibly removed
Right.
In what we call
Trail
the
of Tears.
Trail of Tears
Yeah.
over to Oklahoma. But we do have a narrow strip of heaven and earth right here in the middle of us. I'm going to describe it to you, then I'm going to show it to you. It's called the Swamp Rabbit Trail. Have you ever heard of this?
I have heard of it.
The Swamp Rabbit Trail is part of the rails to trail system. They took the old Swamp Rabbit Railroad and took the rails up and made it into a trail. It goes right near my house where I'm living. I'm going to show you a video. I have been up and down this trail a great many times. It is just one little piece of what we can do to make our place a little more heavenly here on earth. So I'm going to show this video of the Swamp Rabbit Trail and maybe inspire you to come down here from Atlanta and ride the trail with me, okay? Let's take a look. That was the Swamp Rabbit Trail, Greenville, South Carolina. I'm Dwight Moody, your host in the Meeting House. I'm here with Caleb Owolabi. Have you been on the Swamp Rabbit Trail?
I have, Dwight. I got to tell you, it is so beautiful. It's the perfect walk for any afternoon, though I typically take it on Sunday afternoons. So anytime that I have gone, it's been on a Sunday afternoon for some reason.
They say it covers about 22 miles. It starts actually north of where I live at Travelers Rest, and then follows the Reedy River all the way down to, goes through the middle of Greenville. And
have you biked the whole thing
I've
before?
biked the whole thing and back. It's
wow.
10, from my house to downtown, it's 10 miles.
Okay.
So I bike down, I take a rest, and bike back. Are you impressed?
Yeah, you are a fitness guru there, I would say.
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that. You're going to have to come down here sometime and ride the trail with me, all right? Jonathan, we're talking with Jonathan Favors Grimes and about his attendance at the New Heaven and New Earth Conference, student conference, sponsored by the World Student Christian Federation on the campus of Princeton Seminary. Now, what is next for you? I mean, for the Federation, for the organization, for the launch? Is there another event that's on the horizon?
Yes, there is another event on the horizon, and we are currently going to discern and plan what that may look like for next year. It is a plan, a vision that we hope to do this conference every year now. After much success from our students and those who were in attendance, they felt that it was much needed to do it again. So we will discern what the theme will be and collaborate as a team, and hopefully within the new year we're going to add some new teammates, who at least 4 or 5 more people who are going to help us expand our vision next year.
Well, maybe it's the kind of event that the Meeting House needs to go to and interview lots of students and lots of their speakers. Now, you mentioned 2 of the speakers a minute ago. The one was Will Gaffney, who teaches down at TCU, at the Bright Divinity School at TCU. You probably don't know this, but she also has been a guest in the Meeting House. The other one you mentioned was William Barber. And of course, he is a pastor in North Carolina. And I'm going to commission you to do something. I want him as a guest in the meeting house. Can you make that happen?
I will do my best. I'll reach out through.
We're gonna find out how much clout you have in this organization if you can get William Barber to stop by the meeting house and let us talk to him about his Moral Mondays crusade, the Poor People's Campaign, these types of things that have brought him such influence and such attention across the nation. Have you ever heard William Barber speak?
I never heard him speak.
Oh, he's a powerful man. He's a big man, and he walks with a cane, if I remember right, because he has some physical disabilities, but he's a powerful speaker.
Indeed.
You know, he spoke at the Democratic National Convention a few years ago, brought down the house, as they say. Jonathan, it's really great to talk with you. Blessings on your ministry, on your work with the World Student Christian Federation. I have to remember to get all the words in the right in the right place. And we'll talk to you again the next time you stop by the meeting house. Okay? Thank you very much.
Yes.
You know, one of the things about this organization, Caleb, is that it started in the early part of the 20th century when the move toward ecumenical activity was at its height. It affected not only the religious world but also the political world, because not too long after the World Council of Churches was formed, the United Nations was formed.
Wow.
And of course the United Nations is a major contributor to stability in the world now.
Yes. And by ecumenical, just for those millennials out there that are a little bit, you mean of good deed, you know, work that is of good merit, community-led.
Here's what the word ecumenical means. It comes from a Greek word that means household, and it refers to the whole household of faith.
I see.
So ecumenical means a gathering of Christians from all the Christian traditions. That's what ecumenical means.
Wow.
So you have Pentecostals. As a matter of fact, one of its chief leaders in the 20th century was a very famous Pentecostal leader, but includes Orthodox, Catholics, Protestants, Evangelicals. That's what we call the ecumenical movement.
Does this go along with the Azusa Street movement?
Well, the Azusa Street, of course, was the launch of the Pentecostal movement.
Right.
That gave force and influence to that wing of the Christian movement. Of course, when the Pentecostal movement started, it was very small.
Yeah.
But now it is very powerful. They
large.
say that 500 million Christians in the world claim to be charismatic or Pentecostal.
My goodness.
Now, some of them will be Catholic, some of them will be Protestant, some of them will be
non-denominational.
Non-denominational. You're right, as we talked about last week.
I learned something new every time I'm on the meeting house, Dwight. I appreciate your insight on this kind of things, you know.
Well,
because you never know until you research. You really never know until you research.
It's important to distinguish ecumenical from interreligious.
I see.
Ecumenical means within the Christian household. That is, everybody within the Christian household. Interreligious means an activity or a gathering that involves many religions. So you might have the Sikhs or the Hindus or the Muslims or the Jews and the Christians in an interfaith or interreligious gathering.
Got you. So it's more of several variety of faiths together.
Yes. Wow. And so there are many of those gatherings as well. I'm Dwight A. Moody, your host in the Meeting House with Caleb Owolabi. Also in the Meeting House and hanging on the wall with me are the Brown Bear of Brevard, North Carolina. I bought this in an art shop in Brevard. You've been to Brevard.
Oh, yes. The home of the white squirrel.
Is it? Maybe so. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
It's a blue version of a brown bear, I might want to say. And then, of course, behind me, my constant companion, John Prine.
Yes.
I draw your attention to this week because next week on Saturday, December the 10th, at St. Michael's Episcopal Church in Fayette, Alabama, there will be a special Eucharistic service, a worship service with communion, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Central Standard Time, featuring the music of John Prine.
Really?
Yes.
I'm there.
You're there. It's a 7-hour drive.
I haven't been to a concert. You've been to a show.
I have.
A tribute concert, though, I believe it was.
I have.
And so this is something that I want to experience because I know you are a big fan.
Well, you'll have to get up early and drive over there.
Yes.
It's a 6-hour drive over to Fayette, Arkansas.
Hey, if I can make it to Seattle, I can make it over there.
Well, that is true. But I can tell you there are no airlines flying into Fayette,
really?
Alabama.
Oh, man. Well, then we might be in a predicament.
You could fly to Birmingham and drive up, I suppose.
There you go.
The pastor there is Danny Whitehead. I spoke with him this morning. I was so intrigued by this, I tracked him down, left a message. He called me back. I've invited him to be in the meeting house
Fantastic.
next week.
Next week?
Next week, to talk about what they are planning. And he said that I asked him, I said, what John Prine songs are you going to play?
What'd he say?
Well, he gave a list beginning with Angel from Montgomery. I don't know whether you're familiar with any of these songs.
No.
But one of them is called Fish and Whistles. And I would just ask my audience who knows the music of the John Prine, what John Prine songs would you play during a Christian worship service? You know, I just wrote an article, published an article. It's on my website at themeetinghouse.net. It's called Eating That Gospel Pie, subtitled The Religious Rhetoric in the Songs of John Prine.
Wow.
Yeah, and I quote and write about this one song, Fish and Whistle. I want to play it for you, and I want you to listen to the chorus of it because it offers a very different take about forgiveness, a very fundamental element of religions around the world, including Christianity.
Yes.
But here is John Prine singing his song, Fish and Whistle.
I've been thinking lately about the people I meet, the car wash on the corner and the hole in the street, the way my ankles hurt with shoes on my feet. I'm wondering if I'm gonna see tomorrow. Father, forgive us for what we must do. You forgive us and we'll forgive you. We'll forgive each other till we both turn blue. Then we'll whistle and go fishing in heaven. I was in the army, but I never dug a trench. Used to bust my knuckles on a monkey wrench. I'd go to town and drink, give the girls a pinch. I don't think they ever even noticed me. Father, forgive us for what we must do. You forgive us and we'll forgive you. We'll forgive each other till we both turn blue. Then we'll whistle and go fishing in heaven. Fish and a whistle, whistle and fish. Eat everything that they put on your dish. When we get through, we'll make a big wish that we never have to do this again, again, again. On my very first job I said thank you and please. They made me scrub a parking lot down on my knees. Then I got fired for being scared of bees. They only give me 50 cents an hour. Father, forgive us for what we must do. You forgive us, we'll forgive you. We'll forgive each other till we both turn blue. And we'll whistle and go fishing in heaven. Fish and a whistle and fish. Eat everything that they put on your dish. When we get through, we'll make a big wish never have to do this again, again, again. Oh, Father, forgive us for what we must do. You forgive us and we'll forgive you. We'll forgive each other till we both turn blue. Then we'll whistle and go fishing in heaven. We'll whistle and go fishing in heaven. We'll whistle and go fishing in heaven.
And that was the late, great John Prine with the song Fish and Whistle. See, you are in the meeting house today, and we really want to thank you all for being here. At the end of the show, we also want to thank Tom Krattenmaker of Yale Divinity School and Jonathan Favors Grimes of the World Student Christian Federation for being in the meeting house today. We thank you also for dropping by for our conversation on religion and American life. Dr. Moody will be back next week, and with Michael Sebastian on the piano and more about the John Prine themed worship service in Alabama.
Caleb, yes, until next week, I want to encourage people to check our website at themeetinghouse.net. I posted my article there, Eating That Gospel Pie, about John Prine.
I want to look.
You need to look
be
at
into
it.
that.
That's
You know,
right.
I'm a foodie, so maybe if it has some relation to that, I would love to read into that.
In that article, of course, I write about the songs of John Prine, including the one that we just played.
That's a great song, by the way. It's really good.
We hope you'll join us again next week in the Meeting House. I'm Dwight A. Moody with Caleb Owolabi.
But wait, before we finish, Dwight, I got to ask you, because in the last episode, we talked about TikTok. Now, have you been able to start your TikTok journey yet?
I'm going to make a confession here. When I first started watching TikTok, TikTok on the screen has a lot of icons and markers around the edge where you could do various things.
Yes.
I've never touched any of those.
I see.
Except unintentionally. And evidently, I touched one of them and created my own account.
Oh, wow.
So I do have a TikTok account.
Well, fantastic.
I have never made a video.
Okay.
I actually
well,
already
that's
have.
That we need to do.
I've got 2 followers already on my TikTok.
Well, look at that. That's an amazing marketing tool without any type of push.
Oh, yeah.
You've already got 2 followers.
They're crowding in.
That's good. Well, hey, as long as they're chomping at the bit to learn a little bit more, that's good.
I think so, too. What I would really like people to do is not so much follow me on TikTok, but go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can link that through our website at themeetinghouse.net. My goal is to have 100 subscribers by Christmas. Make it a Christmas gift to me, Dwight Moody, and the Meeting House. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And
That's
you need to
awesome.
do that. Are you a subscriber?
I'm a subscriber,
okay,
of course,
great.
yes.
Yes, I can't have a non-subscriber here in the Meeting House with me, can I?
I had to give you a Christmas gift early, so I subscribed before this episode.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Dwight A. Moody in the Meeting House with Caleb Owolabi. You have a great day.